She wouldn't want this. She told me once she'd rather die than end up like a vegetable. That's what my son said. I heard him say it while standing 3 feet from my hospital bed. His voice was calm, professional, like he was updating someone about a client. I wasn't dead. I wasn't unconscious, just paralyzed, brain awake, body offline. It was the 4th day after the stroke. The neurologist had told them my eyes weren't tracking, that I was non-responsive. They didn't run a second test, didn't wait a week. They decided I was finished. Michael, my firstborn, signed the DNR forms by the end of the day. His wife sat beside him, scrolling through Zillow. If we list her house fast, we could get an offer before summer. We'll tell the realtor it's an estate sale. That's when I knew they'd been planning this. Katie, my daughter, arrived the next morning. She brought store-bought flowers and asked the nurse how long it would take if they turned off the machines. The nurse didn't answer. Katie didn't care. "You always said you didn't want to be a burden, Mom," she said. Then she leaned in and kissed my cheek like she was visiting a tombstone. The worst part wasn't what they said. It was how normal they made it sound, like I was expired inventory, like I'd served my function. And now, I was overhead. Later that afternoon, I heard my grandson ask where I went. Tyler, 6 years old. "Nana's just really tired," his mother said. "We'll see her again after she's rested for a long time." He asked if I'd still make waffles when I woke up. No one answered him. At 11:46 p.m., I felt a twitch in my right hand. Not a full movement, just a pulse. A tiny rebellion. I didn't show it. By morning, Nurse Jane came in. She adjusted my IV, checked the monitor, paused. "Vitals are improving," she said to no one in particular. Then she reached for the clipboard and stopped halfway. "I don't like this," she whispered. I heard her. She was the only one who suspected. When my son returned, he brought paperwork. His wife handed him a pen. He leaned over the side of my bed, signed something I couldn't see, and said, "You raised us to make hard decisions, Mom. So we are." Then he took the ring off my finger. "It's a family piece," his wife said. "We'll keep it safe." She smiled. I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I just watched the ceiling and remembered every word. They thought I couldn't hear them. I raised 3 children, 2 by birth, 1 by circumstance. The birth ones were easier to track. Diaper to diploma, scrape to speech therapy. The third was Michael's first wife, before the divorce. She left when the pressure broke her. I helped her pack. I don't say that for sympathy. I say it because they've all rewritten the story. Each one. Erased the parts they don't like. But I remember. Katie was 9 the first time she told me she hated me. I didn't react. I was on my 3rd shift that week. Double-backed from hospice work to home to help her with a science project she forgot was due. She threw it across the room. "I hope you die like Grandma," she said. My mother died in a chair in our living room while Katie watched cartoons and I was changing sheets at County General. Katie cried later. I forgave her. That became our rhythm. She'd burn things down. I'd clean the ashes. She said I was emotionally unavailable. I said I was tired. Michael asked me to co-sign on a loan for his second house after the first divorce. I said yes, even though he never repaid me the down payment I gave him 10 years prior. "You've got the retirement, Mom." What I had was a state pension and a cracked molar I couldn't afford to fix. But he needed it. He had 2 kids by then. He stopped calling once the papers cleared. They think I never noticed, but I did. Every whispered plan, every transaction, every favor reframed as expectation. When Katie was in rehab the second time, I picked up Tyler from preschool every day for 4 months. Cooked, bathed, tucked him in. She told people it was forced bonding. Then she posted online that her mother had done the bare minimum her whole life. Michael asked me once what I did with all my money. I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? That it went to bail? That it went to private school fees when they didn't want their son going to the local district? That I paid for his wife's dental implants because she didn't feel beautiful anymore? He said I should have invested better. Frank, my ex-husband, hadn't spoken to me in 14 years. The last time he was in my house, he took the television and half the kitchen utensils. He left behind a box of old records and a bottle of aftershave I threw out the next day. Katie invited him to her wedding. She didn't invite me to the rehearsal dinner. She told people I didn't fit the aesthetic. I watched the live stream from my phone in the dark. The Wi-Fi cut out during her vows. Last Thanksgiving, I made a full spread. Turkey, stuffing, pecan pie from scratch. Katie called that morning and said she'd decided to do dinner at her husband's parents' house instead. Michael texted, "Next year, promise." No one came. I ate in silence. I once thought love meant patience. Now I think they saw patience as a weakness. The holidays blurred. I stopped putting up decorations. No one noticed. Katie asked if I could stop oversharing trauma in front of her son, Tyler. The same boy who once called me his favorite human. He barely looked up from his iPad now. When my knees gave out last winter, I called Michael for help bringing groceries inside. He sent his assistant. She called me Miss O. I didn't correct her. Sometimes I thought about writing letters, explaining everything. Then I remembered how Katie once told me, just because you sacrifice doesn't mean we owe you anything. Maybe that's true. But it also means they owe me silence. Not this. Not betrayal disguised as mercy. Not the cold signatures and rehearsed justifications. Not standing over me while my body was trying to claw its way back to light, deciding which parts of my life were still worth salvaging. They didn't think I'd hear them. That was their second mistake, because I did hear them, and I remembered every word, just like I remembered every sacrifice they'd made me regret. The first movement was the thumb. I didn't tell anyone. Not the nurse, not the tech, not the whisper-voiced night shift orderly who always left my door open too wide. I let them believe I was gone, because I wanted to hear more. Day 6. I curled my finger inward when no one was watching. It took 20 seconds. Sweat beaded on my scalp. I couldn't feel my legs, but I could feel my resolve. It had weight. By day 8, I could move my wrist. Still no blinking, no speech, just enough motor control to make a plan. Nurse Jane came in mid-morning. She was the only one who didn't talk to me like a corpse. She checked my vitals and hesitated when she touched my arm. I made my move then. A twitch. Small. Intentional. Her eyes locked on mine. Not pity. Not panic, recognition. She said nothing, but she came back an hour later and tucked something beneath my blanket. A phone, burner model, unregistered, locked with a 4-digit code I cracked in under 5 minutes. She didn't write a note. She didn't need to. That night, I used my right hand to tap out my first email. 4 words. Still alive. Need time. I sent it to Carla Finch, my old union contact from the home care agency. The subject line was blank. She replied 20 minutes later. Say the word. They kept visiting. My son came first, sat in the chair, scrolling. The screen reflected in his glasses. He was looking at a mortgage calculator. He paused only to glance at the window and say, "This place has a lake view. You'd like that, Mom." He smiled. Then he turned off the ventilator monitor alarm because it annoyed him. Katie showed up 2 days later. No flowers this time. She didn't sit. She just stood in the corner and called her husband on speaker. The doctor said it's miraculous. She hasn't flatlined yet. Whatever. She still doesn't respond. We'll move forward next week. Then she hung up, pulled out her phone, searched for power of attorney forms. I memorized the site she clicked. Later that day, I opened my bank app. The joint savings account was gone. The retirement account showed a withdrawal of $22,000 in the last month, transferred to Michael H. The memo line read, care expenses. I hadn't authorized a cent. They moved fast because they assumed I couldn't. At 3:14 a.m., I swung my legs off the side of the bed. Gravity hit like a threat. My calves spasmed. One foot buckled under me. I didn't fall. I waited and tried again. That night I stood for 11 seconds. I was soaked in sweat. I whispered 3 words just to feel my throat again. They came out cracked, unintelligible, but they were mine. I started filming on day 11. Nurse Jane cleared out the room early and left me alone for 2 hours. I propped the burner phone against the picture on the tray. I looked into the lens. My name is Ophelia May Parker. I am 63 years old. I have 3 children. Their names are... I said their names out loud. Then I recited everything I had heard while I was unconscious. Full statements, pauses, phrasing, dates, times, names of staff present. I didn't cry once. By the end of the 4th video, my voice had smoothed out. Not loud, but firm. The kind of voice I used when telling families their loved one didn't qualify for extended hospice coverage. I recorded 6 videos. Then I uploaded them to a private cloud folder under an alias I used in the 90s when I wrote editorial letters. Then I emailed the link to Carla. Subject, release only if dead, or quiet. On day 12, I checked the Zillow listing again. My home was listed as pending sale. Photos of the house I paid off 2 years ago. Scrubbed of anything personal. No photos of me. My quilts. My curtains. The title was listed under a living trust I'd never signed. Katie's name was on the paperwork. So was a notary I recognized. Her best friend's husband. I recorded a 7th video. That afternoon, I logged into my original Gmail, the one tied to my estate documents. I forwarded the new trust paperwork to my attorney. Subject line, fraud, begin full audit, lock assets. Attached was the 8th video. I still hadn't told the doctors I could move, still hadn't opened my eyes during visits, still let them sit and talk like I was oxygenated wallpaper. On day 14, Nurse Jane wheeled in a different monitor, unhooked the vent, reconnected oxygen. She raised one eyebrow. I blinked once. She smiled. "Do you want to tell them yet?" she asked. I shook my head. just once. Okay, she whispered. But when you do, don't hold back. She left me a notepad and a pen. I wrote 4 words on the first page. Let them keep talking. By the time I told the doctors I could move, I'd already done everything I needed to do. It happened quietly. A blink, a nod, a whisper. I told them I wanted to speak with risk management first. Not family, not discharge, not physical therapy. Risk management. The administrator's name was Evelyn. She walked in with a clipboard and a smile too polished to be real. I asked one question. Do you record patient room audio for compliance? Her smile paused. Only in special cases. I said nothing. Just tapped my finger against the IV pole twice. She asked no further questions. The next day, my hospital chart was locked behind a level 4 privacy flag. My case was referred to internal review. I didn't contact my children. Not once. Not to tell them I was awake. Not to warn them I remembered. They'd earned the silence. Instead, I met with my attorney via Zoom. His name was Leo Harmon. We hadn't spoken in 9 years. His first question, Ophelia, do you want to recover quietly or burn everything down? I didn't answer. Just uploaded the folder marked Evidence, 12 days. He watched in silence. When the final video ended, he took off his glasses and said, We'll begin with financial fraud, elder abuse, then breach of fiduciary trust. After that, it's just cleanup. We moved fast. First, we froze the title transfer on my house, filed a fraudulent notary claim, backed by signature comparisons and time-stamped medical incapacity. Katie's claim was invalidated in 48 hours. The pending buyer received a cancellation notice. The real estate agent called 3 times. I didn't answer. Second, we revoked the power of attorney Michael filed through an online form. He hadn't noticed the date on the form was 1 day before my stroke. But the IP address, his wife's work laptop, documented, logged, archived. Third, I transferred all assets into a new trust, not in my name, but in Nurse Jane's son's name, held in stewardship until he turned 21. She cried when I told her. I didn't. Fourth, I recorded one more video, just 4 minutes, addressed directly to my children. I never raised my voice, never used the word betrayal, just said the facts, what they took, what they forged, what they said when they thought I was already gone. I ended with, You made peace with my death. Make peace with my absence. Carla, my old union contact, pushed the entire story through a local journalist she trusted. No names, just facts. Widow targeted by family for medical fraud during hospitalization. It ran on the 11 o'clock news, 3 million views by morning. Then came the consequences. Katie's name was removed from Tyler's private school account due to pending financial misconduct. Michael's wife was placed on leave at her firm after the article went viral. The internet has a long memory, and it loves a villain. Frank called me twice after the broadcast. I let it ring. He left a voicemail that started with, I didn't know, and ended with a choked silence. I deleted it. The final step was the estate revision. Leo asked, Do you want to remove them from the will completely? I nodded. Leave anything behind? He asked. Just one thing. I wrote it by hand on linen paper. The new final page of my will read, To my children, you were right. I wouldn't want to live like that. So now, I won't. OMP. The copy was notarized and mailed to all parties. One copy was left on my hospital bedside table. When Katie visited the next day, she didn't bring flowers. She brought silence and saw the envelope waiting. I didn't say a word. Neither did she. She didn't pick it up. She just stared at it for 5 seconds, then walked out. She never came back. Michael showed up 3 days later, alone, wearing a shirt I bought him on his 30th birthday. He looked at me like I was a stranger in his mother's face. It's all gone? He asked. I didn't respond. He sat down, picked up the envelope, didn't open it, just stared at it. You were supposed to be gone, he said. I blinked slowly, then turned my head and looked out the window. He waited a full minute, then stood up. He left the envelope on the tray. That was their third mistake. They thought I was just buying time. I wasn't. I was building a boundary, paper by paper, and once the final signature dried, I didn't owe them anything. Not an explanation, not a phone call, not even closure. I requested the meeting myself. Conference room C, round floor, no windows. I told the hospital I wanted to provide verbal testimony for administrative record. They didn't know what that meant. They assumed closure. They invited risk management, a legal observer, and a nurse. I added 2 more names to the list. Michael Parker, Catherine Mitchell. They arrived on time. Michael in a pressed shirt and faded smugness. Katie in athleisure and concealer. Neither of them knew I had been discharged an hour earlier. They hadn't checked. When they walked in and saw me sitting upright, no machines, no wires, no monitors, just a hardback chair and my posture, they froze. Michael blinked first. You're up. I didn't answer. The attorney gestured for them to sit. They did. Not because they were invited, because it was safer than standing. I pulled a thin manila folder from my lap, placed it on the table, didn't slide it toward anyone, didn't label it, just let it sit there. On top, 1 page, 3 words. Exhibit A, your words. Katie looked pale before she touched it. Michael looked annoyed. They didn't open it. I waited. Risk management cleared her throat. Ms. Parker, I understand you requested this session to provide clarity on your recent medical records. I raised my hand slightly. She stopped talking. I turned to Michael. You signed the DNR, I said. It was the first sentence I'd spoken to him in 17 days. He opened his mouth, closed it. I turned to Katie. You tried to sell my home. She shook her head. No, Mom, I raised my hand again. She stopped. Then I looked at the attorney across from me. He clicked his pen, passed a document to the hospital observer. Medical fraud, forged documentation, premature estate liquidation, false claim of capacity consent. The supporting materials are all in the folder. Videos, financial logs, IP trace routes, audio from the patient room. Katie reached for the folder. Michael grabbed her wrist. This is a trap. No, I said. This is a record. Nurse Jane entered 5 minutes later. She didn't speak, just stood behind me. She was wearing blue scrubs and a steel expression. Michael glanced back at her like she was a bailiff. He wasn't far off. The room went quiet. I let it stretch. Jake's silence, long, surgical, merciless. Katie cracked first. You said you didn't want to live like that. I said I didn't want to live invisible, I replied. She flinched like I'd thrown something. Michael spoke low, almost a whisper. We thought you were gone. I nodded one. You were right. He opened the folder, saw the transcription of what he'd said on day 3. She's gone. Just a heartbeat and a hospital bill. Katie reached across and flipped the page. She raised us to be strong. She'll understand. It's not about what she wants anymore. It's what we can manage. Page after page, every word, every timestamp, every lie packaged as mercy. The hospital administrator excused herself 6 pages in. The risk management rep kept her eyes on the document. Nurse Jane didn't move. I slid a final envelope across the table, labeled simply, revisions. Michael opened it. Inside were the notarized documents disinheriting both of them from my estate. Katie's hand started to shake. You can't mean this. I raised an eyebrow, didn't speak, didn't blink. The lawyer placed a second folder in front of Michael. This one's from the state licensing board. Michael's hand stopped moving. He didn't open it. He didn't need to. You were my mother, Katie said. It wasn't a question. It wasn't an apology. Just a statement thrown at the wall. And you were my children, I replied. Until you decided I was more valuable as a memory than a person. They didn't answer. Because what could they say? I stood up. The chair made no sound as it moved. Nurse Jane held the door. I paused once, with my back to them. Then I said, if I raised you wrong, then this is how I correct it. And I walked out. They didn't follow me. They didn't call my name. They just sat there, reading, finally listening. The news cycle lasted 4 days. Not national, just regional, just enough. Local woman victim of family estate fraud while hospitalized. They ran it with a stock photo of my old house, the same house Katie tried to sell while I was unconscious. The comments were predictable. Some people were furious. Some didn't believe it. Some asked what kind of children would do something like that. The ones who know already knew. Michael issued a statement through his lawyer. Due to the emotional trauma of the situation, our family is choosing to heal privately. He closed his practice 2 weeks later. His license was voluntarily surrendered. Katie disappeared from social media. The real estate agent she worked with deleted her website. I received no apology, only silence. Exactly what I wanted. Tyler's school removed their tuition assistants. Apparently they had concerns about guardianship discrepancies. He'll be fine. Katie always said he was a survivor. Let's see if that's true. Frank died a month later, stroke. Irony. The obituary was 2 paragraphs long. I didn't attend the funeral. I sent 1 flower arrangement, no card. Nurse Jane visits every Thursday. Not because she has to. She brings her son, 11 years old, quiet, brilliant. He reads quietly in the corner while we drink coffee on the porch. She never asks about Michael or Katie. I never mention them. We talk about tea brands, weather, books, nothing that breaks the stillness. The house is quieter now, but I don't mind it. Quiet doesn't mean empty. Sometimes the neighborhood kids stop by. They don't know the story, just know I leave cold juice and firm rules. One of them calls me Gran. I don't correct him. Carla calls twice a month, sends clippings from the latest elder advocacy policies. She wants to start a foundation, says it should have my name on it. I say no. I've already said everything I need to say. Once. Michael left 1 voicemail, 4 minutes long. Started with, Mom, ended with crying. I didn't listen to the middle, just deleted it. Katie sent a letter, handwritten, addressed in her old, loopy 7th grade cursive. She said she was sorry, that she was overwhelmed, that she thought I would understand. I read it once, folded it, set it in the fireplace, lit a match, watched it burn. They don't call anymore. They don't send birthday cards. They don't ask to visit, which is good, because they wouldn't get in if they did. The will is final now. Signed, filed, sealed. Nothing left for them. Not a cent, not a photo, not a word. The lawyer asked me once if I wanted to add a clause, something symbolic, $1, a note. I said no. That would imply I owe them a mention. I don't. When I walk through the garden in the morning, I don't think about them. I think about the quiet, about the sun hitting the bird bath, about the boy reading comics on my porch swing. I think about how they thought my life was over when I stopped moving, that I had nothing left, that I was just dead weight. They were right. The woman they tried to bury is gone. What's left doesn't belong to them. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.